Good to go? Yeah. Following a reminder to meeting attendees that this is a formal meeting, I can advise that members of the public will be given an opportunity to speak during the public open session, but not at other times. The meeting is being filmed, and by being present, attendees are deemed to have agreed to be filmed and to the use of those images and sound recordings. I can advise that attendees should not disclose any personal information of individuals, as this would infringe the data protection rights of that individual. May I please ask everyone to mute their microphones when not speaking. Okay, so first of all, item 1, apologies for absence. We've received apologies from Councillor Mark Knight, Councillor Barrett, Councillor Thomas and Councillor Allbone. Item 2, declarations of interest. Disclosable pecuniary interest. Does anybody have any pecuniary interest to disclose? No. Item 2B, non-pecuniary interests. No. Chairman's announcements. I don't have any announcements. Well, one brief one maybe, the Mayor's Civic Service. I went to that, that was pretty good turnout, and yeah, it was good. Good one, Jonathan. And public open session, number 4, is do we have anybody? Nope. Number 5, no invited speakers. Number 6, members' questions. Do we have any members' questions? Councillor Skilton.
Thank you. I just want to know why the town centre vision is in exempt for this agenda.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Essentially, because we'd like to report about what came out of the joint committee, which the minutes aren't necessarily written up yet. And also there's something about a timeline which was submitted under exempt to the joint committee. But essentially, this is a kind of piece of work which is still in formation, which hasn't necessarily yet gone out to public consultation, but it certainly will do, which is built into the timeline.
Councillor Skilton.
Just so, can you assure me that there's a legal basis for this to be in exempt?
Yes, I can. That's okay for it to be an exempt. Yeah.
Councillor Woodhead.
It just really, I guess we're going to get onto it in a minute in under 10B, but it's just nice to see the Big Eats. I guess the food trucks back on track again for this coming year, and I just think it's obviously a really positive thing, and it's good to see you know, being organised and sorted for the spring and summer ahead. So obviously we're going to discuss that later, but it's great that we've made some progress on that. So there's been a few bumps in the road. So just a thank you from me to the officers for getting this far.
Yep, I agree. It's good to see it's back, and I think its first one's on Thursday, isn't it? So yeah. Looks like a good turnout. Thank you. Any other members' questions? No. Number 7, minutes and recommendations. For members to receive the minutes of the Town Centre Management Committee meeting on the 24th of February at the offices of the BTC. Right. Thank you. Yep. Page 7. 1 second. Page 8, page 9, page 10, and page 11. Right.
Move that it be approved as a true and correct record, and you can sign the same, Chairman.
Okay. And then is it 8A? Yep. Minutes of the TCM meeting held on 24th February. Page 7, page 8, page 9, page 10, and page 11. Councillor,
Sorry, Chairman, on page 10, items 9C, enable officers to arrange a banking hub working group meeting with Ampton and Sandy Town Council. That working group hasn't had a meeting with those councils yet. What's the situation there, please?
Yep.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. So essentially, we are awaiting the advent of the new clerk. When she's in, that will happen. I think there's going to be two separate meetings, one for Ampton, one for Sandy. They won't be able to be together. That's what our early understanding, but they are going to happen. So essentially, in May to early June, they'll happen.
Thank you for the explanation. Thank you.
Right, so we've got going on to 9A. Social Economy Report for members to receive and consider a written report from the Community Development Manager. But before we open this up, I just want to clarify a few points. So who will be responsible for the day-to-day governance of this organisation?
There would be a committee, a group of some sort, who would be largely self-managing, and we would be represented on that and give guidance.
Okay, thank you. What level of oversight will the council retain?
Essentially, that would be very much down to themselves, although we would keep a watching brief on it, and we would possibly be better informed than the group itself. So there would be advice given, but I think the responsibility has to lie with the committee itself. We do not want to be in the position of finding ourselves being a controlling interest, as it were, even by default.
Yep.
Go ahead, thanks. If I can just add to that as well, thanks Ian. Essentially, it would be either a committee or a governance body as type, sort of an arm's length body from what we're about to present in terms of the report, in terms of the organisation or constitutional structure, and that would its minutes would come back here to the council. Also, the potentially correct reporting chain could be either the F&GP committee to go through occasionally, or the TCM committee as well to come through. And if there's anything deemed interesting enough or high priority enough, it then go to its town council anyway as well. So that there'll be that reporting structure set up as part of this. But there'll be a firewall between the two, clearly, in terms of internal and external.
Okay, thank you. Obviously, there's other various committees as well, but is there any overlap with any of the existing committees, or do you see any overlap?
I think the reason for setting this up is that at the moment there really isn't any sort of coordinating body representing the social economy, voluntary community, charitable sectors within Biggleswade, and the idea of this is to try and get an umbrella organisation that can play that role, that can coordinate activity, talk to each other, become constituted and representative, and then maybe at some stage in the future to actually look at having assets as well.
Yep.
Did you also mean in terms of internally overlapping, or did you mean externally overlapping?
Externally, but you can mention.
Okay, no, that's in that case, that's fine, thanks.
And finally, what contingencies are in place if this doesn't succeed?
I think the contingency is that if it doesn't work, we're no worse off. We end up in the situation we have at the moment, which is fairly informal and disjointed or dislocated. If this didn't work, I think you'd try and formulate it again in a roundabout way. And whether it fails because it's the wrong time or it's the wrong organisations, they would be, I think, the only reasons for not doing it, other than there being a general lack of interest and commitment to it. I think the benefits are self-evident. If it doesn't happen, we bumble along as we are at the moment.
Thanks. Just to add to that as well, I mean, if it were to fail for whichever reason, there'd be, obviously there's a constitutional structure which we'll get onto, but I mean, it'd also be a case that there'd be between 15 to 20, let's say about 20 organisations where we would be one of the equal share partners within there. So reputational damage is reputational damage, whatever that failure would entail. But having said that, the upside does outweigh any negatives essentially on this. Again, we're going to get onto it, but essentially we're talking about very little financial, if any, financial outlay. This is more a case of making sure the legal structure is correct, rigorous, sound, and the governance reporting mechanisms are all external, internal, are transparent to enable this thing to work. We'll get on to.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
just to come back on that, there has to be constitutional safeguards in this. There's a constitution, there are rules. It'll be registered probably with Companies House, maybe also with the Charity Commission. All of those things have to be reported to annually. It has to be done properly. It has to be audits. There have to be officers, and there have to be reports annually, or was it 3 times in 4 years, something like that. But anyway, the legal structures require all of that to happen.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor.
Yeah, thank you. And I think your questions were quite valid, Mr. Chairman. It would be great because I think I had a look at this already, and it's quite, how can I put it, a sort of dense topic in a sense. So I'd be really good to hear from Ian a little bit of an overview, and then maybe we can come back to some of the questions that you Chair,
I mean,
have posed as well. No, that's fine. And then we can then perhaps bring it back and see where we go. But I think I'd like to hear a little bit more from just a few more explanations from Ian, because it is it's an interesting but quite a dense topic, and just sort of an overview. And then I think other colleagues have got questions as well. So,
if I may.
Sorry, Councillor North, and then Councillor Foster. Yeah.
As you indicated, Jonathan, it's a magnificent document, very well written, and I think it shows that we're very fortunate to have such capable and erudite officers working on our staff. The only thing is, it's not at all clear. In fact, it's not even stated what the purpose of this organisation is. What is it supposed to do? And it just seems to me it's like an organisation that's being set up to exist for the sake of existing. Let's have more committee meetings. Let's spend more council taxpayers' money. Let's get together and have a nice meeting. Because when you say it's going to coordinate organisations, and why? And they're disjointed. Well, what's wrong with being disjointed? I mean, how would an organisation like, for example, which is mentioned in the report, Preen, coordinate its activities with the big theatre? I mean, what coordination are you talking about? And you know, I feel it's been done. This has been done. You've talked about legal status and structure, which is fine. But those, I think you should. The involvement of the council should stop here and now. Basically, I think. And if there's any value in it at all, it will be picked up by the voluntary organisations who will take it forward themselves. And if they can't or will not do that, then what is the point? I don't think there's a role for the council in this at all, quite frankly. And certainly I don't think there's any validity in spending council taxpayers' money on further legal fees to establish. These organisations, if they see a value in it, they should be willing to spend their own funds on their own legal fees to do whatever they need to do. I don't think the council should be on any committee related to it. What's it got to do with the council? I mean, we're not a voluntary organisation. We're not, are we? We're not in the same sense as these are. And I don't think, and we certainly don't want the minutes coming to Town Centre Management Committee, for goodness sake. I mean, we have enough papers already for council meetings. We don't need minutes of some organisation that we really don't have anything to do with. So that's my opinion. I think.
Thank you, Councillor.
Council involvement should stop here and now. And let's move on to the next item on the agenda. That's my suggestion.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Thanks for that. Thanks for the Councillor North's points. I think for us it's. I mean, we were going to say this because we haven't had necessarily the opportunity yet to introduce the report, essentially. So I won't get into that yet because I think Ian should be doing that. I think To answer the question, we've got some corporate aspirations, 5-year document, which are rolled forward now from 26, 27. In there's at least, I think, 2 pages worth, which talks about providing support like we currently do already, but potentially as and when there's more budget, which there isn't, but I mean, if there would be, or other opportunities through external grant funding or through private sector input, etc., to provide more support where we could, and also a wiring diagram and networking opportunity in terms of signposts to all sorts of organisations who do come through our doors and ask us various questions. And because they are sometimes, well, not sometimes, quite often disjointed. Some are working well together, others are less so. So that's what this, in part, this organisation will be there to fuse things together in a sense of people playing, organisations playing to their strengths and being able to coordinate that, and importantly, to gather external grant funding in a with increased momentum.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt, Craig, but you're not answering the question. Why do they want to be or need to be coordinated?
So to answer the question directly, we've had 2 forums now. The first one was busy, which Councillor Elban chaired at the time he was there. Another one which had different organisations on there. And between them, they were all clamouring for various things. I won't go into too much detail, but they were basically saying they need a stronger voice. They need a hub, if you like, to be able to gather, like I said, to be able to understand where funding comes from, where it goes through and how it gets spent. They can spend it all quite well, but they're missing those kinds of opportunities. And also to start sharing amongst themselves. So from Preen to other organisations saying how they need new premises and therefore how they might want to share premises, etc. And, you know, and work towards a single kind of vision. We've got, if you look back to actually part of what this report's saying, I think there's an area in there which talks about high street occupation, and we know there are a few, like other high streets around the country, we're indeed probably on average slightly better off. Big average there, big generalisation, but essentially we are. But there's still quite a few empty places with banks and the like and such like that. In there's I think an option where CBC has come forward and says they've now getting, it's about £1 million, was it, thinking, not just for one area, for several, and then they're inviting already now, or soon, I should say, business cases to come forward to look at whether it's possible to reclaim or at least make an arrangement with an existing freeholder for taking over those premises on whichever basis. So these are some of the things that they will not be able to do on their own without some assistance. And that's not just us co-writing things with them, it's some kind of legal entity. There's other things there like a business accelerator, if you like, or business incubator. We've had quite a few, particularly Ian, have had several people coming in from the outside saying, I've got this idea, this thing, what can I do with it, etc. And we direct them as best we can. But it would be better to have that in a place where everyone can share corporate knowledge around what they have, what they do, like an a la carte menu, if you like, and then take it forward that way.
Okay, Councillor Foster, and then we can listen to the report and go from there.
So what I'd like, I think, in this particular case, I'd like an introduction from. And what I think we need to do that. What I'd like to understand is the sort of the context, but also this. I understand from the fact that it's relating to the corporate aspirations. But this has come to us, and it's a fairly sort of hefty document. I've not seen anything relating to it before. So from that point of view, it's an understanding of why we're going down that route. Have council approved that route, or is it not? But I'm looking to an introduction before we discuss and pick holes in it in a way, or agree with what our approach is. I'd like to understand how you see it, rather than us debate it, if that's all right.
I agree. We'll just go to Councillor Strawn and then over to you. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Rather like Councillor Foster, I think, I don't understand. We've got to a conclusion as to what we're actually going to do on this document, which is very good. But to a certain extent, I feel this is the cart before the horse, in that we would want to understand exactly what is actually proposed and how it's going to work, because I understand the theory of trying to do something for the economic community, but it doesn't actually tell me how it's going to work and how it's going to be managed. And so I think if Ian can portray that and give more detail, because I think I want to know that what organisations are on board. We've heard that there's been numerous inquiries, but I'd like to know a bit more about the organisations making the inquiries and what they're trying to input to understand whether this works or not. But at the moment, I wouldn't want to go and commit ourselves on the basis of the summary without actually having seen what's in the horse.
Thank you. Over to Ian.
Yeah, as has been pointed out, recommendation is in line with the corporate aspirations. And the purpose is really to try and set up a vehicle for social economy organisations in Biggleswade. The things that Big Theatre and Preen might have in common with a lot of other organisations is they're all social economy organisations. The social economy is largely not-for-profit or profit-for-benefit organisations. They're not statutory. They have similarities with businesses, and they tend to adopt business-type models, but they will also look at social values and social benefits and not be purely based on profit maximisation or, for that matter, share structures. So we're looking at something which can pull those organisations together to talk to each other and to talk to the wider business community and the statutory sector. Think of it as a bit like a voluntary services council, but for Biggleswade and going just beyond the purely voluntary to the social enterprise, community enterprise sectors as well. It gives a vehicle whereby there could be a regulated legal structure, some form of organisation that can represent itself and can self-manage. It can fundraise and own assets external to the council. I think we would pump prime and possibly spend a very small amount on getting it constituted and nothing much more than that. Once they're up and running, they can bring their own income to it. If they're already renting premises, offices and such like elsewhere, they could come to a hub if we get to the stage of having a hub. But we couldn't have the hub unless you had some sort of corporate structure and organisation in the first place. So that's what we're looking to do as step one, is to create that legal vehicle which they can coalesce around, form a committee, elect officers, register, get themselves properly constituted, decide then what their purposes are, set their own constitution and rules, set their aims and objectives. We can be a participant in that, but we can't lead it, nor should we. It should be pretty much self-sufficient, and it's a coordinating body which can also speak for the sector. We can stand back from that to some extent and say that that is self-servicing, self-managing. We have an interest in it, but it's not a controlling interest. We are one of 30-odd partners. It's right that we should have a place at the table, but we shouldn't be running the show. So there will be governance and there will be constitution. We have taken guidance from organisations within the sector, Social Enterprise East of England, WENTA, which is the Enterprise Agency, and CBC's business team. It's about creating a new social economy organisation. There are a number of corporate structures which could be looked at and investigated. On balance, we come down in favour of the Community Benefit Society for a number of reasons which are pretty much explained in the paper. It's the most flexible model which would work for us. There is an option of going for charitable status. There's an asset lock so that any assets cannot be redistributed only to other organisations of similar intent. So there's a non-dissolution clause in there. Surpluses need to be reinvested for community benefit.
Chairman, I'm sorry, I'm at a point now where some of this is interesting, but this is now not, we've gone beyond with respect to him, we've gone beyond an introduction, we're now in the context. Is there any more that's significant? Because I think I'm just conscious of this being a valuable conversation.
Yeah. Okay, let's just say that that's the first step. A social enterprise hub would be a second step, and that might look at some premises. We've looked at some of the vacant shop unit options. We would favour option 1, not immediately, some way down the road. So moving on to the recommendations, we need a coordinated community organisation representing the social economy sector. There's an increasing need for a range of communities in the town for community facilities. Officers would like to explore with legal counsel the most secure legal firewall operating model, which is the COMBED, or community benefit organisation, and to co-draft with social economy members a business case for submission to CBC regarding some property at some stage.
Okay, thank you. I can now open it to the floor. Councillor Skilton, please.
Thank you. Thank you for your introduction, Ian, and thank you for everyone else with their questions and comments. So I volunteer with a few organisations that may be being considered in this report. Before I got on the council, I tried to set up a group of volunteer organisations that were concerned with environmental stuff, with a view that maybe we could band together to get grants. And it took months to get everybody in the same room, and then our aims are all very different, so we all did our own grant applications in the end. I think this is, I can understand where some of the logic is coming from behind it, but I think probably this is a long way ahead of where anyone is now. I'm not entirely sure that there is such a big role for the council on this, but perhaps it might be a good idea that these organisations are contacted and asked what they want, and if they're already meeting regularly as a group. If they're not and they want to, then maybe there's a role for the council in providing a room or something like that for them down the line. But I think to go down the route of creating a constituted legal entity is big, when you could just get a group of people together that could write a constitution and become a constituted group, of which I'm a member of many of those. All you need is 3 people to constitute a group, and you become a legal entity without having to go through any actual charitable, the charity commission, or registering with whatever it is you register a business with. And so, I think there's probably a lot that could be done well in advance of this, just much more informally, that would be of the benefit to these groups that wouldn't need anywhere near as much council involvement at this stage. And should the council want to become involved at some stage, then that might be a conversation that we have along, down the line.
Anybody? Oh, Councillor Foster.
I've got similar views to Councillor Skilton on this. I mean, when I first read the paper, whilst I felt it was really comprehensive, what I was looking to understand is the context, really. Has it come to members in any format at all before? Have we supported this approach? Is it something that members we've got some appetite for? And I've not seen anything. I may have missed it. But when I read the report, I absolutely understand that for some groups there will be some benefit, but I can't quite get my head around whether there's a need for the council to be directly involved at this stage, and especially as it's not been to council in any format to say this is a route we want to go down. I'd like to have, rather than going, this is a corporate aspiration, so because it's within the corporate aspiration documentation, this is the route we're going to go down. I would have perhaps liked to have seen these are some of the ideas we might approach, and as a result of that, officers can then follow a route based on what the recommendations were from members. What we've got is a report that says this is what officers think we should do. And I don't want to be disagreeing with the officers around what we should be doing on this. But if we're going to have some disagreement already, and I think what we should be really be doing is getting an idea of what is our approach here. Do we want to do this? At the moment, I'm not feeling that from this committee necessarily, but it should be, I think, something from the council agrees the approach on this rather than this committee. So whilst there are some recommendations here, I don't think this committee should be signing up to all of these recommendations. I think there are some things that we can encourage and support officers with going away to investigate, but I wouldn't want to be tied to a recommendation that says we co-draft with SE members a rigorous option 1 business case for submission. No, not at this stage for this committee, because is it a recommendation or is it a resolution of this committee which then ties the council to something? I don't think we should do that. The council needs to make hold on a second. The council needs to decide its approach on this. So that's why I think we need to either dilute the recommendations or come up with different recommendations. But you've done some great work on this, Ian. So it's not about that. It's about decisions about what we do. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Right. Thanks for all those points. All well made, all good points. If we cast our minds back not that long ago, we had no business forum, okay, other than maybe many years before in the past. So we've now had 2 business forums. We have a 3rd one coming up where actually social economy is going to be in there on the agenda in theory, because, well, I'll come on to that next. We've also had, as I said before, we've had not 1 but 2 forums on, so that's another separate thing on social economy. In this very chamber, in fact, we had a meeting chaired by Councillor Alban, I think it was at the time, which you could have actually, it was quite palpable, the amount of energy was in the room in terms of demand, clamouring for demand for this kind of thing, because all the enterprises, all the organisations, and from Amicus through to Preen and all sorts of others, which escape me at the moment, Here to Listen and others, they're all around the table. They basically said, we go off, do our own thing, we try and get some guidance where we can. If we're lucky, we get it. If not, not much else happens. They were asking for some kind of cohesion, not just another forum, if you like, where we'll meet again and keep talking, but they wanted some kind of vehicle or instrument to be able to galvanise all their energy for the town. They largely felt, I don't mean to diss CBC here at all, because they do lots of good things too, I suppose, but they felt that they'd been, that sort of CBC does lots of social work as well, and then they kind of they push that across to Biggleswade, and it kind of just about hits us, rather than we're having other sort of youth centres and all the rest of it in other towns across the midsection of the county. So long story short, that's what's happened. And we had, funnily enough, I'm pretty sure actually we did have some minutes come out, at least of the first forum, if not the second one. But we are where we are on this. It might come as a slight surprise, but honestly, take it from us that it has come as a result of quite a lot of demand. Now, happy to kick this round down the road a little bit more when we do a bit more work on this and all the rest of it. But it's not going to be something that's going to sort of go away, because essentially we have a town which is growing to about 33,000 odd in a few years' time. We have quite a lot of youth around. We have quite a lot of elderly around. And the real question is what's being done for them in the main.
Chairman, if I may.
Thank you. Councillor Foster and Councillor North.
I'm not disagreeing with that at all. What I'm saying is we've got a document here that is suggesting that officers have got an approach. Is this an operational matter or is it a policy matter? So if it's an operational matter, that's fine. But I don't think it is. I think it's an element where there's a policy. So we haven't decided what the policy is, and we've got a document that suggests we go down a particular route. I don't think that's the right way. I think what we should be doing is getting the support of members to say, this is the way we want to go, with options. For me, and great work again, but it needs to be in terms that are simplified bullet points to start with, to say these are the approaches we could make, and then we can decide whether we want to do it. Now, initial reaction might be, no, we don't, but it might be, actually, we could do this, this, and this. This whole thing in one go, for me, is not a point where we should be. I think what we should be doing is exploring it, get some agreement from council, and then then go along that route. So that means we're not deciding something, but also not going whole hog and setting up committees, etc. So I'm reiterating the same point. And I'm not disagreeing with that there is the appetite for it from the groups, but we've not seen it and not agreed an approach. So I don't think there's every member will have been aware of the social economic forum. Business forum, yes, but not the other one. So on that basis, if you have got members that you're asking us to support something, I don't think we can.
Councillor North and then Councillor Strawn.
Thank you, Chairman. I think you referred to the corporate vision and this sort of thing. Well, this is all very well, but I mean, a lot of this is, you know, it's what aspiration that I think you're over interpreting it. You're taking it as a plan of action. I mean, the vision and thing is not a plan of action. It's nice phrases, nice things we want to think about, that we want to have in the background guiding us in what we do. It's not a plan of action. You've sort of interpreted it as if it's a plan of action, and I think that's not the right way to go. I am very much opposed to the idea that anybody in this council does any more work on this at all, as opposed to Councillor Foster. So I don't agree with Councillor Foster on that point. I think it's time it finished, because I don't think this has got anything to do with the councils. I don't think these voluntary organisations really are it's not the business of the council to be involved with them and to get involved. Now, okay, if they come to us want a grant, then fine, we might give them a grant. If they come to us wanting the road closed for a 5K run or something, wanting our people to help them out with the crowd barriers, fine, we might do that and help them out. So and that's legitimate. But I don't think trying to organise them and trying to get them to do things, I think is not the business of the council, number one. And number two, I think what is being proposed, in all the talk that's been around, I can't see the purpose of this organisation. It seems to have no purpose whatsoever. It's not going to achieve anything. It's not going to do anything. It's just a talking shop and a way of spending more money. So I'm opposed to the whole thing. I think the council should stop now. And let's move on to the next agenda item.
Thank you, Councillor.
So thank you very much, Ian. It's a magnificent piece of work. And I think what you should do is give it to these voluntary organisations. Say, look what we've done. You can do this if you want to. But that's up to them.
Yeah. Councillor Strawn?
Thank you, Chairman. I think I'm more in Councillor Foster's thought processes than Councillor North is. I think that there is opportunities here, possibly. I think that if one was doing a report, I'd have been interested to see what happened from the Social Economic Forum that Councillor Allbone chaired in here, to understand exactly what the organisations are involved and exactly who wants it. But I'm not prepared to support the recommendations as they stand. That is committing the council. I'm not sure we necessarily got a budget for it. I would have no difficulty in the discussion process. The business forum was a mixture of the socio-economic ones and businesses, rather than just the social economic forum. So I think that's got to be differentiated. I think we need to understand as a council exactly what organisations are involved in enthusiasm, and if necessary, have some meetings. That's officer time, and it may be in one or two members' times, but this report is something after all that process has been gone through, not at this stage. Therefore, I would quite like officers to pursue the principle with these organisations so we can actually understand it. But when we're talking about taking on premises at a cost of £1 million or something, that strikes to me, that's way out of our league, and I don't think that's within our remit. There may be grants and things available, and it might be quite appropriate for us to be a shareholder, for want of a better description, in an organisation which has got limited liability. But I want to understand a lot more about the organisations who are involved. And we've heard there's a lot of expressed interest. I haven't seen any report or anything about this that I can recollect saying who is interested. So I think that is a necessary report, and I think it's actually something that probably should be going to council as to whether it's a policy that we actually want to pursue in more detail, because it's our overall policy thing, because it could cover voluntary organisations generally. But I don't actually see how the hub would operate as it's proposed, which is one of the major points raised in this. So I think that I can't support the recommendations as set out. I think it's a very stimulating discussion paper, but I think we've got, I think it's going to, stage beyond where it should be. I think we needed one in the middle before we got to this stage to actually understand how this would work. So I personally would have no difficulty in supporting council in looking into this more and seeing what we can do for these organisations before, but I can't agree to spending money and trying to set up an organisation which may be a damp squib at the end of the day. I think we need to actually make sure that it actually works.
Thank you, Councillor Skilton, and then
Thank you. I've got a suggestion really, because we've gone around the houses with this now, and I can see some benefit to it, like Councillor Strawn and Foster. Might I suggest that we ask officers to go away and come back with options for how we support the corporate aspiration, which includes communities and local economy, which however it's worded in the corporate aspirations document, because to my mind, this is one option for supporting that aspiration, and probably as a committee, we might want to discuss different options for supporting those organisations. This feels like a very almost complete kind of option where there might be stuff in between. And I mean, this is the first time I remember a corporate aspiration ever coming to a committee with a specific thing to meet it as set out. And so, I feel like there must be other options in supporting these corporate aspirations, not just this one. So I don't know if that's something we could ask officers to do.
Yep.
Thanks, Councillor. Thanks, Chairman. So just in response to that, if I may, every single report we write, every single one officers write. So since time immemorial, at least for the last 4.5 years that I've been here, have in the box at the top, just so we know, have a range of one or more of corporate aspirations that set out in there, subject to the topic or the thing. So that's what we always aspire to be able to kind of nail the objective, essentially, at least where we're going, or have a target where we're going, trying to achieve.
thank you, and Councillor Woodhead, then we'll end it.
Just very finally, I'm agreeing a lot with what Councillor Skilton was saying about looking at this in perhaps in different ways, and Councillor Foster and Strawn. I just wanted to make a couple of points really. I think the Town Council does have an element of a role in terms of our voluntary and community organisations, partly for the reasons actually that Councillor North mentioned in terms of grant giving. There is definitely a growing social economy and charitable sector within the town. I know because I've visited quite a few of them already this year. We've got more coming, like the Children's Society, who are going to be offering youth services. We've got Amplius with their youth work. There's the Stratton Farm as well, those kind of things. So there are others outside of this which could be captured in perhaps Councillor Skilton's paper, if I can coin it that way. So I think it does need a little bit more of an explore from that perspective. So I think it's good so far, but I think we need to look at kind of bring members up to date. I think all members up to date with those conversations. I mean, I was aware of obviously the Social Economy Forum. I couldn't chair it, so that's why I asked Councillor Albo to do it. And I know that activity has been going on, but I wasn't able to go in person. I think it's right to link it with the corporate aspirations, but they are just that, aspirations, and we need to see how we go from there. And I think, I think that's kind of where we are. And also just focusing on Councillor Foster's point about the rest of council. I'm conscious there are another 9 members who aren't here this evening who may well have strong views, and we could have a richer discussion about this sort of stuff, about the benefits of this as well. And I think having a stronger paper would probably help that as well, and get perhaps potentially stronger buy-in from colleagues, maybe, depending on how it goes. So consequently, I'm not sure I can support the recommendations I set out, although I agree with Councillor Skilton's, I think, proposal that he put forward. If we can go away and look at that in a bit more detail.
Okay. So is anyone seconding?
Can I just
sorry, could you
It's ask officers to go back and deliver options for supporting communities and the local economy as part of the corporate aspiration, which includes a voluntary organisation, I'm guessing, which is why we're here.
So can I?
Yeah. So come back to this committee with options, which may include this, and maybe there are other options of how we support the voluntary organisations of the town. I'm not good at actually articulating that, am I?
Can I? So
for
clarification then. So I agree with the principle. So what we actually want is what the options are to support the
voluntary sector at
voluntary
Biggleswade.
sector.
Yeah.
So this might be included in that, but we need to look at what the options are. I think it should go to council, so council makes a clear policy decision, or makes a decision about what the approach it wants to have. That then will allow, and it may be that this route, but it may be another route. So we've got a clear approach. So the recommendation is, as Councillor Skilton has said, but it goes to council rather than coming to this committee, so that we've got a clear direction. And then once we've got a clear direction from council, we can then approach that from this committee.
Okay, thank
That's
you.
a summary of that. Good luck with actually trying to work out what I just said, but it's essentially Councillor Skilton's recommendation, but it comes to council rather than to this committee.
I agree with that. Councillor Strawn, do you have the actual
No,
proposal there?
I agree with the approach, but I just hope that in that report to council, that it will add a bit more detail on the organisations that have already expressed interest, social economy side, so that we've got the background there. Because this is part of the business case, is at the moment we haven't got any business case, and in terms of who's interested and how it's going to work, and also a little bit more information about the thought processes of what the premises, if any, that we use for, how they would be used. So it's a more of a report of that before we can consider going anywhere near the original recommendations from officers.
Thank you. Councillor Foster. And
I'm not sure, Councillor Strawn, that we even need to go down that route at that stage. I think what we should be doing is exploring what the options are. And then once we've explored what the options are, the council then decides the route it wants to go down. And that, I know that sometimes is disappointing, but I'm not saying this is not the way to go. I just want to make sure that we're not putting loads of work into something that members then go, no. It may be that this is the approach. So come back with some clear suggestions, one of which might be included in that, but not to the level of detail that we've got here, sort of the top line subject, so that we've then got an approach and it can open up the conversation. I think this is quite daunting for some members, if I'm honest. You look at it and think, well, I can't support it because it feels almost too much. And that's not wanting to be negative. It's about actually not really having an understanding. And it may not be our responsibility, but it might also be something we can genuinely support in some way. So always frustrating, I think, as an officer, when you've put work into something and the members are going, well, we don't necessarily support that. I don't think we're saying that. I think we just need an understanding of what council's approach to this is, so that you can then work with something properly.
okay, thank you. Do we have a seconder for the proposal? Councillor Woodhead. So all those in favour? Against? One against. Okay. Right. Carried. Sorry. Yeah, carried.
Can I thank you for that? I thought it was very constructive. I've been doing this for 40 years, so I know what I mean is, but quite clearly it needs to be broken down into manageable chunks and explained, and maybe not in as great a detail. And if we can do that, deconstruct it slightly, explain it, understand it. And I think to then leap straight to shall we have some assets, shall we have a property, shall we go for option 2, is too big a leap at this stage. I think some of that background stuff as to who's involved, who's interested, who will serve, who's going to be on it, how are we going to manage ourselves? Actually, not we, how will they manage themselves? What will our role and relationship be? I think that's the key to it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ian. Okay. Moving on. Items for information. 10A, the event calendar, which looks quite promising. So, yeah. Over to you, officers. Yeah.
Yes. Thanks. Funder's unable to be with us. She has put forward an events calendar. It's fairly comprehensive, covers us for most of the rest of the year. Recommend it as laid out, which I can't find at the moment. Oh, there we are, 10A, right. So you've got the written report, you've got the table there, and really the recommendation is to note, members to note the calendar, the events on that. Pretty comprehensive, takes us up to Christmas.
Okay. So just before I open, Is there a contingency in place if there's no sponsorship secured? And is there any financial exposure to the council?
Thanks. So the contingency is that some of the events could still run, essentially operate if they are obviously our own. Sorry, I'll start at the beginning. If the events are our own events, which are costed up, let's say, the year before, and therefore put into the budget, preset and all approved, then certainly they go ahead. So things like obviously the Remembrance Sunday event, the Christmas light switch on, those go ahead. Other events are contingent upon sponsorship. There's an in-between amount of events. So things like for example, the ones which say here not applicables, those go ahead anyway, regardless, because they're not us delivering them. They're others delivering them, and we just happen to know they're happening. They're taking place. There are other events which we also, the town council, seeking sponsorship for, and there are some discussions which I can't necessarily say what they are now because they're commercially sensitive, essentially, the session. However, there are a couple going ahead, but it's a kind of wait and see approach until such time as agreements are signed, and then those will go ahead. This is a fairly, it's a pragmatic schedule, if you like, going forward for the rest of the year. What's missing here is potentially other events that we are aware that are happening. We have nothing to do with, but they are technically still on our radar, but we're not necessarily publishing, which we should be doing, in my view. So in other words, there's something like a bit more like an A to Z or a what's on, if you like, if that still exists, of events happening in the town. It'd be nice if people could come along to social media or onto our website and suddenly see that there's some other events listed which are bona fide events and are taking place not by us, that we would like to list them as well.
Okay.
Not currently on there.
Thank you. Councillor Foster.
Thank you. I think it's good to see the events. I think we've done events very well over the last couple of years. I think that there's the more events that the council is supporting or have an involvement in, particularly the ones in the Market Square. But I think that recently the Easter event down at Franklin's and all of these sort of smaller things that will grow are absolutely fantastic. I think it's good to see these things here. It's a good question in relation to the sponsorship, but as long as I think what we do need to understand is what the possible financial obligations, but ultimately some of these events they're either going to be self-funding or they're worthwhile from our budgets because of the goodwill that's generated from it. So we need to understand what that looks like, but it's really good to see the variety of different things that are coming forward. And some of these obviously are like a mayor's Christmas card competition. It's an event of some sort, but it's not an event that's. So it's good to see everything in one place. I think long may it continue that we're doing more and more things to generate interest for the members of the public, and it's the publicising of it. And I used the Easter event in particular. Despite the deputy HR manager and events managers' best efforts, there are still members of the public that were not aware of the events on the day. So it's incumbent on all of us to actually make sure these events are shared as well. So, but good thing so far.
I agree. Councillor Strawn and then Councillor North.
I think. Sorry, was it Councillor Wood?
No, sorry.
It's great to see the number of events that there are here, but I think at some stage the council will need to know which events will need sponsorship or not go ahead, because some events should proceed, but maybe the extent of them will be limited by whether the sponsorship or not, because there may be more things that can be done if the sponsorship, but there may be events that, if there are events that are dependent upon sponsorship, I think the council needs to know so that we can budget appropriately across the board so that we understand that. So would the intention be of officers, because I imagine the next TCM meeting will be in time to actually have some firmer finances in place so we can determine what we do on the basis that if we've got no sponsorship, this is what will occur, because I'm sure we're not going to suggest we cancel the switching on of the Christmas lights because we don't get sponsorship. We've been dealing with that for as many years since the Chamber of Trade stopped doing it. So that will occur, but it may just be the extent of what actually happens on the night that be affected by this. So I think we need to understand the implications of this at some stage, not now, but I think it's welcome that we're getting so many events on, and I think we should be publicising them, but including the ones that aren't actually organised by the council, to make sure that more people know about them and that more people come to the town to support them.
Thank you. Councillor North and then Councillor Woodhead.
Thank you, Chairman. Well, just to pick up a point made by both Councillor Strawn and Councillor Foster, is the question of publicising these events, because certainly I am not aware of what a lot of these as they happen throughout the year. You talk about social media, I still don't really understand what is meant by social media, and it's not something that a lot of people don't deal with it. You talk about the council's website, that's fine, but I mean, how many people look at the council website? Now, I know the council has got an email mailing list, because you do send the odd notice. So why don't publicise, send out an email, you know, like a week before the big eats, to everybody, saying, just a little post or whatever, saying this is on. And why not even send an email on to councillors saying it's big eats next week, why not come along? I mean, that does not happen at the moment, and I'm just suggesting that it should, that's all, and use the email list as well. Thank you.
Okay, just a surprise one from Asia. Go for it, yeah.
And we also make sure that there's public notices around the town for those of the public who don't use social media. I'm thinking about but it also got our responsibility.
Okay, thank you. Councillor.
I think to pick up on what Councillor Law said, all of the events do go on the town council website, and there's 3.5 members that follow the council website. So it's not as if those people aren't being communicated, but not everyone will pick it up. And I think you're quite right, Councillor North. When that's something that we could talk about with for members update, because you know we're as much as any, there's lots of things going on. So to actually, it's nice for members to have an update, because we will see the social media. So, and that again, if it's taken as being criticism, it isn't criticism. It's actually a constructive suggestion to actually get as many people behind these events. So, and some people won't see Facebook or Instagram or whatever. They're relying on notices. And again, I know we've done that, but it's the more we can do, the better. And these events are very, very well supported in general. But some people are, I'd say, excluded, but are not as made aware as some others. So, but if you think about how we used to manage events in the past, we're in a far better place now than we've ever been. So, and I think that's to credit to Funda and Ian, but to make sure that we're doing these events, and actually for us as well, supporting doing these things. So, but the more we can do to publicise it, the better. Summary.
Thank you, Councillor Woodhead, and then we can.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, it is to note, and I think it's a really healthy list of activities going on here. I mean, just a few points that I'm kind of aware of, and then one question. For example, the Run the Wade event, which I know is not a BTC event, but I believe it's got over 500 entries now for that race, which is phenomenal. So that'll be a very busy market square on the day when that happens. So again, that's just an example of that, and plus some of the other things where we can use that multiplier effect of, yes, they're not BTC events, but they're happening in our market square, they're happening in our town, and we can, it's bringing that footfall into the town centre, which is really, really important. I think it's whether it's a BTC event or somebody else's. So I think that's, just worth recognising. And I think it's great that, there's that and a number of other things, particularly in September, that are happening as well. The other question I had really, as well as agreeing with Mark's comments about communications, and I think we do really well, but we can always fine tune it and enhance it and make it even better, was around this kids disco at the Orchard Centre, which I think is a really good idea. And I think it's probably the first time the council's done something like that. Whether that would be a chargeable event or not, or is that an expectation that it will be charged or not? Tickets.
So thanks. Yep. So just to answer that question, yes, it will be, because it's out with our budget. So that's another thing that's been created in terms of something that's interesting. There's clearly demand in at the King's Reach and elsewhere as well. So that will be an interesting event, you know, to roll on into, if you like. And there will be a charge. I honestly don't know how much it will be at the moment because it hasn't been told to me. But yeah,
no, that's fine. Okay, that's fine, because I know that similar events are, put it this way, sort of social clubs within the town are always quite well supported, that are very similar to this. So I suspect the demand will be there, but I was just curious. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Yep.
Thank you. Just to add a couple of bits. Biggleswade is now at 750, and I had a discussion with them today about whether or not they need to comply with Martin's Law Tier 2 because they've got over 1,000 people with spectators, families, supporters, and the rest of it. So I said yes, assume that. That's looking strong. The nice thing about that is that we've managed to build on that, and while that's their event, it wouldn't have happened without our support, it has to be said. And following on from that, there's the Festival of Sport and Fitness, which is taking advantage of the crowds that the Biggleswade will attract to make it an all-day event rather than something that just finishes at 12:30 when all the runners come back. And we've even got some of our colleagues from France coming over for that. So
Brilliant.
really doing well, picking up. As regards the list of things here, I think of all of them, there are only 3 which are possibly funding dependent, sponsorship dependent. Everything else is pretty much guaranteed to happen.
Thank you. I hope our visitors have signed up as well. Yep, go ahead.
It'd be good to understand a little bit more about the sports festival. I might not necessarily now, but I may have missed some of the communication around that. So if officers have got an idea or some details of what that's going to look like, that would be helpful to share with members. Again, good discussion, I think this. So it's all positive. It's just keeping it going.
And finally, Councillor Strawn, and then we'll move on.
Like Councillor Foster, I'd like to know more about the sports festival because it's passed me by, and I think it's probably passed a lot of people by because it sounds like it's an opportunity to have the whole town buzzing for a whole day.
Yeah.
So I think it's important that gets publicised more because frankly, I wasn't really conscious of it. And noting the requirements of Martin's Law, etc., and the town council's involvement, I wonder whether it's being considered, and not necessarily for answering tonight, whether Jones Fitness actually contribute to any town council costs that we might be incurring, because I think that is actually important because clearly it's becoming a really good event and raising quite a bit of money. So therefore, I think that some of our overheads at least should be covered.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's partly funded by Jones Fitness. It is partly funded by Big Eats, who will be present in the afternoon. And that leaves us with a slender cut of 25% of the overall costs overall.
Well, sounds very promising and an exciting day with Big Eats as well being involved. So definitely excellent. Right, item 10B, for members to note a brief verbal update from the Community Development Manager regarding Big Eats. Over to you.
The situation with Big Eats at the moment is that the first one of the season happens a week on Thursday. The publicity's gone out over the last couple of days. It was a little bit late in coming through, but it's hitting the streets and the social media sites now. We have 8 vendors lined up for the first Big Eats. We hope that will build over the summer. There will be some rotation, we hope, so we get different varieties of food on different occasions. They are supporting a few other events as well. So as well as the last Thursday of the month, they're supporting Run the Race, or the afternoon Festival of Food and Sport and Fitness. They will be involved with the Oktoberfest, so they're playing an active part in that. It's a wider involvement and commitment than we've seen previously. And we look forward to seeing how it takes off. It's a new concept, it's a new organiser, and we'll see how it goes from there, but it's promising.
Good, thank you. Move on, item, so that's noted, right? So item 10C, car parking. Oh, yep, go ahead.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. So essentially, on top of the paragraph here, it's just to say that following what was a good working group meeting on car parking, lots of good suggestions in terms of various options, all ahead, if you like. A lot of data that was shared, driving the discussion essentially. We agreed that, as it says here, we'll do an update report for the next TCM committee because of the timelines have been a bit too short to prepare a report for this one. For the 21st of July, and obviously we'll take soundings from the new incoming town clerk and also the various options that were discussed, including, well, all of the options, including the ones we finished on, I think, at the time. So that would be quite a good wide-ranging report, seeing which way forward, all of which will incorporate a rigorous 3 to 4 month long procurement as well, in terms of on the horizon. And it should be said that none of this would happen before the 1st of April anyway, next year.
Councillor Foster.
I think just follow on from, I think it was a good discussion. It is sort of quite a heavy subject. It's quite a sort of a subject that we can. There's lots and lots of options. What I'd like to be able to do before it comes to TCM is, as obviously as part of the working group, have an understanding of what's going to come before. So, in conjunction perhaps with the chairman of the committee, or whoever is the chairman, should I say, that we're very clear on what's coming to council, and again make it so that it's not simple, but at a point where it's easily digestible, so that members can fully understand what we're proposing and what they can make decisions on. I think that's probably the way to go with it. But worthwhile, very worthwhile having the discussion to see what we can do.
Thank you. Moving on now, item 10D, Community Safety Report. Over to Ian.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Very briefly to run through this, we have an enduring relationship with the police of the local community safety group and CBC on antisocial behaviour. Things don't change very much from quarter to quarter, it has to be said, so we haven't gone to town on this because you wouldn't notice any outstanding statistical changes from month to month in this quarter or the previous quarter or the quarter before. Therefore, it really doesn't warrant a massive, very in-depth report and an awful lot of officer time committed to churning it out in some other form from this. Just by clicking on these links, you get the stats, but you get them for the whole of central Bedfordshire. They'd have to interrogate it a bit to get it down to ward level, but it can be done, and then you can compare ward with ward and month by month. The other main thing to point out and commend to you this time is that Anne Jeeves, the PCSO, who has been the walking symbol of a police presence in Biggleswade all the time I've been here, and I think for several years before that, is actually her last week is next week. I saw her on the Market Square today. She'll be retiring. She'll be sadly missed. I don't know how you replace an Anne Jeeves, because she has been our point of contact for pretty much everything forever. Yeah. And they don't grow on trees, so she will be missed. And I don't know quite where we will go for our first point of contact thereafter. She had a very high visual presence. She was well respected in town, and she was known by people across the board. So she will most certainly be missed. It'll be a loss to us. It'll be a loss to Biggleswade. That doesn't necessarily impact on our crime stats. As I say, they're fairly static, and nothing is outstanding. When something is outstanding, you'll know about it.
Thank you. Councillor Foster and then Councillor Straw.
I'm not going to over duplicate what Ian said, just to recognise that what Ian said about Anne Jeeves is absolutely correct. I think we will recognise that. I'll be honest with you, I saw the links and thought, did everyone look at the links? I didn't look at the links, I'm being honest, because I think it goes back to my same point around this. If there's a link, if you're a member of the public, are you expecting we should have the members of the public should have the same transparency. If we want to share information, share information. If there's, I'm just going to say it sounds negative, but don't put something, don't give me a report in relation to this if we haven't got any, it's a link to something. And I'd rather see something that members of the public can see, even if it's a small graphic or something, a link to SharePoint or to a website that I think any of you alluded to. You've got to filter different things. Doesn't make it easy to have an understanding of it. So, and it may be that it's not even necessary to be on the agenda. So I don't know whether we've got a standing. If it's because it's a standing item on the agenda, great. But if not, I would suggest perhaps we don't need to put it on the agenda if we haven't really got anything to highlight. If I'm sounding negative, again, not intending to be, I just want to make sure that we're using our time properly. If everyone else looked at the links and I'm the only one that didn't, that's on me, but I'm not sure everyone would have done because of the nature of it. A lot of the time you want to have something presented in a way that gives you enough information to then go, I actually want to have a look at this. That's my feelings on it anyway.
Councillor Strawn.
Slightly different point again. We recognise what Angie's has done, but I'm concerned that we don't seem to have a point of contact in the police immediately. We did have the local inspector, I think, come along very recently, and might I suggest, if they haven't already done so, that officers speak to the inspector and find out the name of the individual at the appropriate level for immediate contact from the council, because that's clearly what Angie's was very good for the council, and that needs to continue. So I'd hope that officers have or will take that initiative.
Thank you. From my recollection, they did leave contact details, but I'll hand it over to yourself. Yes.
Thanks, Chairman. Yeah, absolutely. So we know both the inspector and the person who's coming in, whose name I don't recollect at the moment, but we do have the details. So rest assured we are taking that forward with them. And we hope that they'll be as responsive as Anne has been, because every time we've asked something, it's always happened essentially, or there's been a very good reason why I couldn't. So, yeah.
Councillors be advised of the name of that officer when it's available.
And Councillor Woodhead.
Just adding a bit of colour to Councillor Strawn's question. I saw Inspector Janine Graham on Sunday at the Sandy Civic Service, because she obviously covers Sandy as well as Biggleswade, and is very happy to be an initial port of call while all this is being sorted out. But I believe it's a police sergeant actually that's going to be covering the area. She did tell me the name, and I've now forgotten. But there are things in training, and I think she was also saying they're very happy to come to a council meeting once they're in post to introduce themselves and take those issues forward. So, give it a couple of months. Get in contact with Inspector Graham now, but in a couple of months, somebody might be in post and they can come along and see us, I think, in an appropriate time.
Thank you. Asia. Thank you. Okie dokie, thank you very much. We can move on. Item noted. Public open session. Anybody know? Anybody online? Excellent. Now we can move on. Members of the Town Council will resolve to exclude members of the public and press from the meeting under section 1(2) of the Public Bodies Admissions to Meetings Act 1960 by reason of the confidential nature of the business to be transacted, financial affairs of the authority, ongoing negotiations. Members of the public and press will be asked to leave the meeting, and the live streaming of the meeting will be terminated. Members will discuss the following items during the exempt session, which will be the town centre vision. Thank you. That's it, yeah. Sorry, yes. Everybody vote in favour of? Yep.